Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Steph Sells Homes podcast. This is episode 37, and we have a really special guest today, a good friend of mine, Adonis Locket. Before I have him introduce himself, I just want to give a quick shout out to Cameron at ADU West Coast and also Sean at 10K Cards. Those are two sponsors for each episode that I have. So I really want to thank them, and we're going to get straight to it today. Adonis has a whole bunch of information to share, and I'm really excited to have him on. You're so busy, it was hard to get him on the show, guys. So I somehow managed to do it today, and I'm really excited to have him on. So welcome, Adonis.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here. So tell the people who Adonis is. And I know you have a lot going on, but what we're really going to dive deep into today is MyRE360, which I think is a really dope platform that you're creating. I'm not going to talk about it because you know it more than I do, but I'm a big believer of it. So, yeah, so just tell people who Adonis is and how you got started in the business.
Sure. So my name is Adonis Locket. I am the principal of Locket and Homes, which is a national real estate investment firm, 11 offices in 9 states. I am also the principal of L&H Capital, which is a national direct private money lender. And I am also the principal of MyRE360, which is a real estate prop tech company. And ironically, the multiple businesses that I have with L&H Capital and Locket and Homes is actually what caused me to create my RE360. So just my background, my degree is in electrical mechanical engineering. I actually worked at NASA. I've worked at Boeing on working on satellites, commercial airplanes, missiles, spaceships, presidential helicopters. I was everything government defense and engineering. But I pretty much was part of a layoff every year from the time I graduated college. I think there were probably about 2 or 3 layoffs a year for my first 4 years in the industry. And then in year 5, in one year, my one location went through 3 waves of layoffs in 12 months. I mean, so the whole thing about getting a good job just seemed like a fallacy, on top of the fact that my boss made me hate my job. So I ended up quitting. In my first real estate deal, I made more in 62 days than what I net in a year as an engineer. So I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. I literally, on that deal, I was sitting at my desk with the check in my hand. My boss came by, made some slick comment. I got up, left, went home, and put my 2 weeks notice in, and launched my company then. How 360 came about was really interesting because my first 5 years in the business, I pretty much flipped like 40 houses. All I did was flip houses and sell houses. Um, I ended up moving out to California, opened up my second office in California. I come back to Dallas. I'm probably 4 or 5 years in the business. I'm 40 houses flipped. And I started, hey, man, my contractor, went into politics. So I started calling around looking for a contractor. Title company I was working with moved to Florida, calling around looking for a title company, insurance agents out of the business. And it dawned on me, I'm like, why am I 4 or 5 years in the business, 40 houses flipped, and I'm literally calling around asking for referrals as if this is day one. And I'm like,
Hmm.
why doesn't something exist that I can just log on to, see all the vendors that I need, and boom, I have my team. And that's where the concept initially first started. Like, why doesn't that exist? That literally exists in every industry. That exists for everything educational. Everything lives at that simplicity, except in real estate. So then, so that kind of was something that triggered this. And then as my lending business started growing, I would be talking to investors who just did not understand the business. So we would spend hours teaching people about, wait, no, that's not how it works. This is what you need to do. This is how it's done, etc. And then it got to the point where I was like, man, these people are paying all this money and they don't really understand how the business works. And then it kind of compounded the notion, man, there really should be something where people can log on to the business, log on somewhere and really learn how real estate actually works. And then from there, that's when I was like, you know what, I'm going to stop complaining about this, and I'm actually start doing something. And so I kind of designed out this little concept where you can log on to the site, you'll learn how to wholesale, you'll learn, you'll see where to connect with vendors. And then as the idea started rolling, I was like, man, if you put deals in here, this would be a really solid platform. If you put a project management system, this would be a really solid. And then it was like, I think we have something big. And then went to conferences, tested the, kind of tested the whole concept.
I remember us
Um,
meeting in
yeah.
was it
And that was,
Atlanta? Was it
yeah,
Atlanta, right? And that was like the first thing you shared with me was the website, and you kind of
yeah,
showed me how to navigate through it. And I was like, "Oh, do you guys have this? Do you guys have that?" And you're like, "Oop, it's right here. It's right here.
right
It's
here.
right here." And I was like,
The,
"Wow, this is an all-in-one thing, right?"
the market told me what we
Hmm.
had was something big and that it was needed, and I
Right.
built it. And now we are live in 10 markets, and I'm on pace to make this thing a household name. Like this platform is long overdue, and ironically the market doesn't even know that it needs it until I tell them. And then once we present it, it's like, yo, where has this been? And I'm like, I know. That's why we're rolling it out. So that's how 360 came about.
So let's dive deep into how to use MyRE360. So if I'm let's say a new investor, let's start off with the investor because I do want to touch on the construction side of things and the ADU stuff and how we can implement that here. But let's
Right.
say a new investor, you have no investment background, you have no network, you really don't even know
Right.
how to get started with the deal, vet out people. How does, your platform really help those types of investors?
I mean, it's literally everything that you need to get started, to grow, and ultimately to scale, right? If you're new to the business, there's so much information out there, but it's hard to tell what information is accurate, what's valid, as opposed to what just happened to work for one or two people. And
Hmm.
the irony about that particular aspect of it is that, real estate investing is very subjective. Real estate investing is very kind of market specific.
Hmm.
So when you're listening to people, something that someone did in New York may not work for California, may not work for Texas or Atlanta, etc. And I wanted to dispel a lot of just general information or misinformation. And I wanted the education to come from people who are specific to the market, who are, national in their craft, and teach you how to do it properly. Um, and then the other part about it is that so many people, especially newer investors in the business, get burned by just not knowing how to ask the right questions. It's not to say that the contractors are bad people. They just didn't know to ask the right questions, right? Are
Right.
you an investor friendly vendor? Because an investor friendly vendor knows that investors are afforded or need certain courtesies, right? Or they didn't ask the questions about maybe the way the billing was paid, or hey, are you going to be, hey, do you just do exactly what you're being paid for, or if you see an issue you're going to fix it and then bill me later, so there's a lot of just things that investor friendly vendors would do that vendors who don't work with investors wouldn't do, and those were what cost headbutting. Leave it to the investor, it's a bad vendor. Leave it to the vendor, it's a bad investor. So this allowed us to kind of get away from falling out or getting into relationships where each other didn't know what you were getting into, right? And I tell everyone, an investor friendly vendor is not the same as a vendor that does a service for a homeowner. With this exact same house, for take a roofer for example, a homeowner will call a roofer. The price that a homeowner will get will be 2 to 3 times what an investor will pay. Now I know what you're thinking, but Adonis, how does that make sense? Well, that's a simple question, and I'm gonna answer it. The thing about it is that investors know what the price per square in a roof costs.
Hmm.
Homeowners don't. And it's not to say that these vendors take advantage of homeowners not knowing, but essentially that's kind of what it is. An investor knows the cost of a square for a roof. Homeowners
It's
do
like
not. So
retail price versus that
retail
wholesale
versus
price.
investor pricing,
Mhm, mhm,
exactly right.
mhm.
Little nuggets like that will allow investors to understand the business. It'll allow them to get into proper relationships, and allow them to not have to struggle through the first deal or two because they just didn't know. So the whole point of 360, especially for the new investor, was just to give you all the insight that you need up front, help you not only understand the business but how to engage with people. And then from there, it should make this a very much easier transition into the business full time.
And a relationship, right, that you can cultivate with the investor and now the contractor that's investor friendly, right? Because I think sometimes people may think, well, what's the point of giving them a discount or selling it at wholesale? If like how does the contractor make money at that point? I think it's volume when you're working with investors, right?
I mean, that's the thing. Contractors got to understand, right? For a one-off investor, sure, you can have a home run. The investor that's doing a couple deals a year, they're not paying retail for work. Now, that's not
Right.
to say that they're not going to pay their contractors well. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying though is that investors work with people so they can get volume discounts, so they can get repeat business discounts, so they
Hmm.
can get the hey, you know how I work. I know, and you know that I'm going to call you discounts. And at the end of the day, I hate to use the phrase discounts because it insinuates favors, but that's not true, right? Your repeat customers are awarded certain benefits. That's what investor friendly vendors give you the benefits of returning business to them in the form of discounted prices for their services.
I agree 100%. And I think like on the construction side of things here with, and I want to hear your take on ADUs. I know we had one in Highland Park that we were going to work on, but
Right,
I actually wanted to use that one as an example because sometimes it doesn't pencil out,
right,
right? And you have to be like, you have to know your numbers. You got to know how to vet the right people. And I have a good team here, but I can see how I can structure my construction network within the platform, and you and I have talked about that, right? And the
right,
reason why is the construction world is a shit show, as you know.
right,
Like trying to
right.
get these contractors and subs to just use systems and processes in place is a whole different ball game. Like,
It
you know,
is,
I grew up around contractors my whole life. Try to get them to use anything, it's just difficult. So I feel like,
especially if it works for them. That's really tough for them to change, right?
right? Yeah,
No matter
that's the
how
difficult
outdated
part.
the process is, right,
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that, right? Because I know we have a lot of people from California, ADUs
right,
are a thing here, but what I see the biggest struggle with, whether it's an investor or a first-time home buyer, they now have to understand architectural designs. They now have to understand construction and financing and how to structure it all,
right,
and then how to vet people and get through. We tell them get three bids. Okay, now how do I read all three bids? What the fuck am I looking
right,
for in each bid? Like they don't even
right.
know that. So can touch on that and share your expertise and how you think MyRE360 would help these people and like going to, let's say, Long Beach, right? And looking at the list of contractors that you'd have in that platform.
Well, first it starts with education, right?
Hmm.
The most frustrating thing is to get into something, not understand it, and then it's easy to blame other people for your lack of understanding. The bottom line is that people need to be educated, which is why on your show I'd like to officially invite you to be our dedicated go-to ADU educator on 360. If you'd love to take that opportunity, we'd love to have you.
Sign me up. Put me in,
So,
coach.
right there it is. So, the first thing to your point is that if they don't know what to ask, they can get into a deal expecting to do an ADU, and that cost be way over what they can even fathom to afford. And now
Hmm.
they're in a bust deal because the ADU was the saving grace. That deal that you and I are talking about, the investors wanted to build an ADU property, but by the time you factored in the cost, they couldn't afford it. So they were like, "Hey, you know what? Why don't we just sell it and we'll just get our money back?" It's like, oh man, that's a great idea. Except when you're trying to sell this property as a wholesale deal, that also assumes that that investor wants to build an ADU. So they
Right.
penciled all their profits, the sales price, everything based on, well, you can sell for 1.9. Well, you can sell for 1.9 if it had an ADU. Without an ADU, you're only selling for 1.4. So that not knowing, like even something that simple didn't not crossing their mind is the reason why not only did they kind of get in over their head, but now they're stuck with a project that they can't sell without taking a loss. They got to find a very unique investor to buy to build an ADU, and they're stuck in the project and pretty much running out of money. So something like if they were to jump into an ADU education, like here's everything you need to know about ADUs, I think it would allow them to be like, hey, listen, the finances may not pencil, our exit strategy may not work. We need to pivot. And
Right.
that simply just the lack of information and you could have probably given them that information in 10, 15 minutes now has
Mhm.
cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think I kind of knew that at the beginning, but we just helped them. I think you and I both knew, right? Like you on
Right,
the lending side, you knew things weren't going to pencil out. I,
right,
on the other hand, knew time frame wasn't going to pencil out either because these
right,
projects are not, a quick rehab or some
right,
cosmetic fix that will be a 30 or 90-day turnaround time. these projects take time, right?
Right.
Typically 8 to 12 months. So that was another hurdle too that just didn't make sense for that deal. So I
Right.
think just expressing the importance of not underwriting the right way or not knowing how to,
Not
is important.
not even underwriting. They just didn't know. They
They just
didn't
didn't know,
know
didn't
the
know. True. Yeah.
right. They didn't know the cost. They didn't know the process. They didn't know the timeline. And I think that's what was a big part that tripped them up. They didn't know what they needed to know. They didn't know what they didn't know. So they
Right.
walked into this really specific, you kind of have to know how to strategy, not knowing anything and learning as they go. And then by the time they made it to a point, they've just crossed the threshold of now due date on their loan. They can't afford it anymore. And it really just kind of brought them to a dead end. With any aspect of the business, trying to learn as you go is the easiest way for you to get out of the business as quickly as you get in. And that's one of the things that 360 solves, right? It solves the not only just going online and finding information about ADUs in this example, but talking to the ADU expert in your local market that knows the laws, that knows what you can and cannot do, and then that person teaching you what to do in your local market, not someone in Florida telling you about ADUs, which they call lanais. So they be on the platform talking about, yeah, what you're in a lanai and this, and you're like, what in the hell is a lanai, right?
Right.
So not only is it education, is localized education that is specific for that area. That's what's going to allow people to be successful, and that's what 360 is built.
Yeah, I think we definitely need that like hyper focused local market, and vendors in that hyper local market, which I'm all for. So, I got you on as far as that goes, because I built a pretty dope network around ADUs, and I am not the one who's going to build out a prop tech company. I think it'd be smarter for me to just join yours and be part of that network, right? And help those investors, because that's kind of where I'm gearing towards. I also took you up on that advice that we had talked about property management. So I
Nice.
recently made a move. Yeah, I switched over my license to a company called True Door Property Management. So they manage over 800 properties. And now what our team will be doing is helping with the acquisitions, helping with, the ADU stuff, and then also helping with the management. So
Nice. See,
see,
so
because
we
it's
need
all
to use
about
you
who
as a
you surround yourself
testimonial,
with. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You helped me open up that mindset. I was like, yeah, you know what? I should, because as more ADUs are being built, a lot of people focus, and you probably know this, you see it all the time. People focus a lot on underwriting, on the acquisition, on the financing, but they sort of just overlook on the management. Like,
And
it's one of the
but
most
the
important
craziest
parts.
part about it is that the littlest thing that you don't think about or that you overlook is actually the thing that will ruin your project and ultimately and potentially your career in the business. So
Hmm. Hmm.
thank you for utilizing the product, and thank you for advocating it on here. And so everyone, and the biggest thing about 360 is that one, getting access to the platform, at least at this moment, is free, right? Because I believe that you shouldn't have to bankrupt your life savings to learn how to get into real estate investing. You shouldn't have to know, not really be on edge on whether the person that you hired is going to be the person that takes you out of a business you never even get traction in. These resources, 360 is free to our users because everyone should be empowered to change their financial position if they choose to, without having to choose between risking their life savings, spending a year in the business, bankrupting they shouldn't have to go through all of this just to learn how to get into a business. And I think 360's number one mission was just to empower people to change their financial position without bankrupting their life savings.
Well, there you guys have it. And it's free right now, you said, right? At least
Right
for
now.
now.
Right
You're
now.
like
So
ChatGPT. You're like, it's free right now
right.
until we have an upgraded version. But no, that's
Right.
really dope. I'm really proud of everything you're doing. I think it's needed in our industry. I see it day to day. Working with contractors and working with investors, everybody's kind of pointing the finger. You seen that meme with
Or what,
Spider-Man?
Spider-Man, he's like, you.
Yeah,
Right.
everybody, the architect, contractors, everybody's
Right.
kind of pointing the finger, but it's lack of education. I think you also need to have just a really solid network and relationships
Right.
to know that when shit hits the fan, that person, whoever it is going to pick up the slack
Right.
and will be there for you and is actually going to show face and not just leave you with the project halfway done and
Right.
walk out on you, which is a
And
lot of what's happening.
here's another thing to keep in mind too, right? When you are a dedicated or a go-to vendor on a platform that other people have used your service, other people has referred people to you as that contractor, there's a little bit more sense of responsibility to perform, considering that your business, your company was referred to by, you referred to someone by someone you're
Mm-hmm.
doing business with or has done business with. So that's a little bit of what you get with that as well. Is that for my HVAC guy, I've been working with my HVAC guy for 10 years. All right. He's probably done over 100 of my houses. He will endure a customer that I refer to him directly, whereas he may not, because of the relationship I have with him and because of the
Mm-hmm.
courtesy that of me giving him business, he at least wants to finish the job. Now, he may opt never to work with them again, but someone who just is a vendor that's called off the street, that don't understand how investors are highly emotional and, always stressed out, they could leave them in the middle of the job, leave them hanging and not lose a wink of
Right.
sleep at night. So it's not only just like the pricing that you get with investors or vendors that work with investors, but it's also the mentality of, or the sense of community that, hey, I got referred over by someone I'm doing business with. Let me at least take care of their referral, even if I choose not to do business with them again.
That's a great point. And, that's super important. It's the relationship that you've had, and just knowing that in situations like that, that they may deal with the client because they were referred, but, at least at the end of the day, they're going to show up and they're going to pull through.
Right,
So
right.
if a contractor is listening to us, or anybody really, that wants to join the network, what does that process look like? Like, how do you vet them? What do they have to do? Do they just go on the site and sign up, or what
So
does that
yeah,
look
I
like?
mean, so the registration process for all our users is very simple. MyRE360.com. Click on sign up. For vendors, there are a few additional steps. Any licensed vendor, that or any vendor that is required to have a license, that license will be verified before they're allowed to be on the site, just to make sure that we are, anytime that service is utilized, it is being all of our vendors are required to show us proof of their licensing, that their business is active in the state, and if it's required, they're bonded. Um, Also, we want to make sure, we always ask the vendors to, hey, show us pictures of your work. Have someone submit a testimonial before that vendor goes live. And for the vendors that are coming in cold, that just saw us and get logged on, we will post that vendor on the platform, but we will not verify them as a MyRE360 verified vendor until they go through a few pretty simple steps. But we do take some steps to qualify that, hey, yes, they do work with investors. Yes, they understand the etiquette that comes with it. Yes, they are licensed. Here we've seen a copy of their license, and a few other things that give our investors the confidence that when they reach out to that vendor, that vendor
Right.
is going to do the best job in servicing them.
Dope. Well, I really want to thank you for your time. I did want to also shout out your LNH company. Do you want to tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I in addition to Meyer 360, I am also the principal of LNH Capital. We are a national direct private money lender. Our our pretty much bread and butter is single family fix and flips. We actually do have a very specific program for SFR properties where there is an ADU build out in the back. But our biggest claim to fame is pretty much our no mortgage payment, advanced rehab draws, a single family fix and flip loan. So for any investor who's doing single family properties that are fix and flipping, we will roll in all mortgage payments in the loan. So you do not make a mortgage payment for the life of the loan. And we will actually advance you the rehab budget. Our rehab budgets are done in advance, not reimbursement for experienced investors. So for example, if you have $100,000 budget, we close your deal on Monday. On Thursday, we're going to wire you 20% of your budget to start your project. Once you use
Mm,
up that 20%, you'll take a picture of what's being done, upload it to our portal. The next day, we'll wire you another 20%. So
mm,
not only do you not have to worry about mortgage payments, we're actually advancing you your budget so that your out-of-pocket obligation is as lean as possible. That all but ensures that you're going to get the job done without having to do the monthly balance of mortgage payments and contract
right.
withdrawals. No mortgage payments. We're advancing you the draws. It is the most competitive loan product in the market, in my opinion. Anyone that's interested, visit lnhcapital.com. That's LNH Larry Nancy Henry, lnhcapital.com/apply. In the section before your submission, tell them that you saw about this advertisement on Stephanie's show. Tell them that Stephanie referred you, and we'll make sure to take care of you.
Dope. Dope. Yeah, like I said, guys, he has a whole bunch of stuff going on. I'm always like, okay, I need to surround myself with people like Adonis in my circle to just become a sponge, right? And learn more. You also started a fund. So we'll finish it off with that. Just
Um,
give people a little taste of that.
yeah.
But yeah.
So I've been in the private lending business for 10 years now. And I'm actually the backdrop you're looking at. I'm actually at a conference that I just spoke on stage about what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is I'm raising $100 million for my fund to expand our lending capabilities. And the short version is I spent 10 years deploying money from all these other hedge funds. They were
Mhm.
cannibalizing their revenue. Everything was very kind of cookie cutter in the underwriting. And I just felt like the industry, the capital markets, Wall Street, they're so far removed from what's actually happening at the investor level. I just wanted to be able to start offering loan products with a investor underwriting mentality that will allow us to close deals based on what's happening with the investor, not the 1, 2, 3 underwriting checkbox method that pretty much every hard money lender uses. So I
Mhm.
just want to. I'm an agent of change. Instead of complaining about it, I build the change that I want to see. I've done that with 360, changing the industry and the way people get into the business. And I'm doing that with my lending company, raising $100 million. So I don't have to ask permission from Wall Street to close deals that make sense to the right investors.
Mic drop. No, I mean, I think that's great. So, anybody who wants to also join that, make sure you guys reach out to Adonis. We have a hard stop, guys. I gotta go pick up my kid from school. Adonis is at a conference out of New York, so we're from coast to coast today. I really want to thank you for your time, and want to give a quick shout out to everybody who's listening. Make sure you guys reach out to Adonis and learn about the platform MyRE360.com. It's dope. Like, I know what I'm telling you guys. You guys got to go on there, whether you're seasoned or new. Like, build a network, go on there, and just check it out. So, any closing thoughts, señorito?
Stephanie, you are the ADU rock star. I make sure that everyone tunes in at most of your posts. I send over to all of the California investors that I work
Thank
with.
you.
So I appreciate you having me on your show, and we actually are really excited about having you on 360, putting everyone in the game about how the ADU business works.
Let me know. I'm ready. I stay ready. I want to be part of the network. I think it'll be a great collab, and I think that we'll be able to help a lot of investors. So
So,
I appreciate you.
all
Thank you
right,
so
thank you,
much.
Stephanie.
All right. Bye.